Hi, I'm Jackie Knowles of Glasswork Pixie, partnering with Oceanside Glass and Tile to bring you this instructional Fusing Fundamentals video series. Today in Lesson 2, I'll discuss the different results produced by common firings, break down the segments of a typical firing schedule, and teach you how to program a firing schedule into a kiln. As glass is heated, it gradually transforms from behaving like a solid to behaving like a liquid. This means there's a wide spectrum of aesthetics that can be achieved depending on the temperature a project is heated to and the amount of time it's held at that temperature. There are 3 general categories of fuses. The first is a tack fuse. This occurs when glass is heated just enough that its surface begins to soften and stick to other layers, retaining most of its original texture and defined edges. Oceanside compatible glass tack fuses around the range of 1350 to 1370 degrees Fahrenheit. The second type of fuse is a contour fuse. This occurs when glass is heated to a temperature where it begins to flow and melt into other layers, rounding out its edges and losing the sharpness of its original texture. Oceanside compatible glass contour fuses around the range of 1370 to 1460 degrees Fahrenheit. The third type of fuse is a full fuse. This occurs when glass is heated until it fully melts and is held at that temperature long enough for multiple layers to fuse down into a single, flat, textureless one with highly rounded edges. Oceanside compatible glass full fuses around the range of 1460 to 1475 degrees Fahrenheit. Now let's break down a typical firing schedule to understand how these different fuses are achieved. A firing schedule is a series of segments that alter the temperature within a kiln to result in a specific outcome. Each segment is comprised of 3 parts. The rate, which describes the rate of temperature change, measured in degrees per hour, and sometimes called the ramp. The temperature, which describes the ultimate temperature the segment is increasing or decreasing toward, measured in degrees. And the hold time, which describes the amount of time that the temperature is held, measured in minutes and sometimes called the soak. The different segments of a firing schedule each fulfill a specific phase of the heating process. The first phase is called the initial heat and initial heat soak. Here, the glass is gradually heated to a degree below process temperature and held there long enough to allow the glass to equalize to that temperature throughout its entirety. This is necessary because glass expands as it heats and contracts as it cools. So increasing the temperature too quickly will cause the outer layers of the glass to begin to soften and expand before the hard inner layers are able to. The pressure difference created between the warm outer layers and the cool inner layers may cause the glass to crack, especially within the thermal shock zone, which is the temperature range below 1000 degrees Fahrenheit. For a 12-inch project made with 2 layers of Oceanside compatible 3mm glass, the initial heat and initial heat soak phase would consist of 2 segments. One that increases the temperature at a rate of 250 degrees Fahrenheit per hour, up to 1050 degrees, and holds it there for 30 minutes, followed by a second segment that increases the temperature at that same rate up to 1250 degrees and holds it there for 20 minutes. Note that some firing schedules will conduct the initial heating more slowly in order to reduce bubbles via a series of segments called a bubble squeeze, which we'll discuss further in Lesson 4. The second phase is the rapid heat and process soak. This phase quickly brings the glass up to the desired process temperature, or the hottest temperature the project will reach and where the glass's form will change the most, and holds it there for as long as needed to achieve the desired result. The exact degree of the process temperature and the amount of time the glass is held there depends upon the type of fuse being aimed for. For a 12-inch project made with 2 layers of Oceanside compatible 3mm glass and aiming for a full fuse, The rapid heat and process soak segment would increase the temperature at a rate of 300 degrees Fahrenheit per hour, up to 1465 degrees, and hold it there for 10 minutes. The third phase is the rapid cool and anneal soak. This phase quickly reduces the glass to its annealing temperature, or the degree to which the glass can equalize before cooling all the way down to room temperature. The anneal soak mirrors the initial heat soak in that it gives the glass time to completely stabilize to a consistent temperature throughout, thus avoiding strain, which can present as cracks in the final piece. This schedule's rapid cool and anneal soak segment would decrease the temperature as fast as possible down to 950 degrees Fahrenheit and hold it there for 60 minutes. You'll often see the as fast as possible rate abbreviated to AFAP, full, or 9999. The fourth phase is the anneal cool and anneal cool soak. During this phase, the temperature is gradually decreased further down through the anneal strain zone, where the glass is extremely vulnerable to cracking if cooled too quickly. This schedule's anneal cool and anneal cool soak segment would decrease the temperature at a rate of 200 degrees Fahrenheit per hour, down to 800 degrees, and hold it there for 10 minutes. Note that since the purpose of the annealing process is to allow the glass to cool slowly enough so that the temperature equalizes throughout the entire piece, very thick pieces will need modified firing schedules with longer, slower annealing segments. Glass is a great insulator, so the thicker the layers, the more time that's needed for heat to escape from within them. If adequate time is not provided, stress will build up inside the glass and the piece is liable to crack. As a general rule, the anneal time should be based on the thickest part of the project. If you're using Oceanside compatible glass, you can conveniently reference the Thick Firing Schedules document provided on their website to determine the appropriate annealing time for your project. Beginners may want to master projects with an even 6mm thickness before attempting to create pieces with varied thicknesses, since they can be tricky to get right if you're totally new to fusing. The fifth and final phase is the room temperature cool. This phase allows the glass to freely cool all the way down to room temperature. Although it's tempting to open the kiln at this point, keep in mind that the glass is still susceptible to thermal shock within this temperature range, so the kiln lid should remain closed until room temperature is reached. This schedule's room temperature cool segment would decrease the temperature at a rate of 300 degrees Fahrenheit per hour, down to 100 degrees with 0 hold time. For your reference, here are sample firing schedules for each of the 3 fuse types we discussed for a 6mm project made with Oceanside compatible glass. You can use these as starting points to create customized firing schedules that fit your project needs and that work with your kiln. You can also always visit Oceanside Glass & Tile's website to take a look at their various recommended schedules. Now that you understand the phases of a firing schedule, let's program the kiln with a 5-segment simplified one that I use frequently in my studio. Note that fast schedules like this have their uses, but if you're new to fusing, you should start with a slower one, like the 6-segment ones we just saw, until you're ready to customize your own. All kilns have unique operations, but if you have a programmable one, the steps you need to take should be fairly similar to the following. First, select the Custom setting, or whichever setting allows the input of a new custom firing schedule. Then, select how many segments the schedule includes. This one will conduct the initial heating in a single segment, so it'll have 5. Next, input the parameters for the first segment, which we learned is the initial heat and initial heat soak segment. The rate is 400 degrees Fahrenheit per hour. The temperature is 1250 degrees. And the hold time is 30 minutes. Then, input the parameters for the second segment, the rapid heat and process soak. The rate here is 600 degrees Fahrenheit per hour. The temperature is 1460 degrees, and the hold is 10 minutes. Input the parameters for the third segment, the rapid cool and anneal soak. The rate is as fast as possible, the temperature is 950 degrees, and the hold is 60 minutes. Now input the parameters for the fourth segment, the anneal cool and anneal cool soak. The rate here is 200 degrees Fahrenheit per hour, the temperature is 800 degrees, and the hold is 10 minutes. And finally, input the parameters for the fifth segment, the room temperature cool. The rate is 300 degrees Fahrenheit per hour, the temperature is 100 degrees, and the hold is 0 minutes. Once the parameters for all segments have been programmed, the kiln should indicate that it's ready to fire, and you can press Enter to start it. Programming a firing schedule is the most critical step of operating a kiln, but many come with other highly helpful functions. This one, for instance, allows me to save up to 4 different firing schedules so I don't have to reprogram them every time. It also allows me to increase the hold time or temperature of a segment mid-firing, or to skip entire segments mid-firing. This allows me to look through the lid window to check if a project is fusing too much or too little, and then adjust the firing schedule accordingly on the fly. Make sure to fully understand all the features of your kiln so you can use it to its maximum potential. One last kiln-related process to be aware of is the importance of documenting the firing schedules you use in each project. Oceanside Glass and Tile provides a firing log template you can download from their website to simplify this exercise. Since firing schedules vary greatly depending on things like the type and size of kiln you're using, the amount of glass in your project, and the way in which your project is constructed, it's not uncommon for artists to use dozens or even hundreds of different schedules in their work. So, although it may not be the most exciting part of the process, I highly recommend keeping track of the firing schedules you use in each of your projects. I can say from personal experience that doing so has saved me tons of time when deciding on how to fire a new project and when troubleshooting projects that don't turn out as planned. Although I've outlined some typical firing schedules here today, you should know that the different rates and hold times will vary widely depending on factors like the COE of the glass you're using, the thickness of your project, the size of your kiln, etc. So the very best way to create a firing schedule is to start with a sample schedule and then perform test runs in your kiln to tweak the parameters and arrive at ones that fit your specific project needs. This will give you more precise results as well as an opportunity to master your knowledge of firing principles through real-world application. Thanks for following along with me today. I'll see you in lesson 3, where I'll explain how to pick the right glass for your project.